Welcome to the O7 Academy, where your interest in computer is our goal. Now, we are looking at HTML elements, and today we'll be looking at HTML selector elements. We're looking at the div, select, and other elements also. Now, moving on to our editor, we'll be creating a new file. I'm calling the file selector. Now, one of these selector we'll be looking at we'll be looking at the div. Now, the div, it actually acts as a container for other elements. Now, what I mean is that there are some websites actually, when looking at them, they have a unique design of actually you'll be seeing an element, you'll be seeing for instance an H element on the right and another element on the left and another in the middle, and just like that, very unique design. Well, there's a reason for it, and this is because of the div. The div actually acts as an container to contain some group of elements, and they have a styling that is only restricted to that div, and it does not affect other elements outside the div. It only affects the element within the div. And we're looking at this as we work on our project in our next video. I'll be showing you how this works. So this the act as container for holding other HTML elements. That is, when you style this element, the styling only affects the elements within this div. They don't affect the one outside the div. So the div actually acts as a container, and it's a selector also because it has a class. We have a shortcut for class here, and the class, you can actually give it any name. You can call it box. And this div, they can also be styled. We can come here and put our style, and we can come here and put width will be. Now, after setting our width and height, we can come to our preview to check how it look like, but we won't be seeing anything. That's because we don't have a background or a border. Now, we'd love to be adding a border. So after adding our border, we're looking at how it looks like in our preview. Now, as you can see, this is it. The red line you're seeing is our border. Coming back to this thing is actually supposed to have in height. Okay, I'll come over here and I'll close this, because it's supposed to have an height of 50% of our view. Okay, now we have our height 50%. Well, if you want to put something inside, you can come here and put a text. And one good thing about this div element is that it is used mostly, and in your programming or coding journey, you are going to be using this a lot, so that you can be able to differentiate restrict styling for an element and another element. So coming here to our preview to see, now we'll be having something like this. So any styling we make here, actually in our next video, I'll be showing how to style a div. Is mostly styled and simpler using CSS, showing you how to style it. Now, when we style it, we are going to see that only the elements in it that is going to be affected. Like in this div, we can actually create an H1 element, and we can call it the. Come to our preview, I'll see something like this. So we can actually customize, create any element. It can be an image, it can be anything. You can even create an entire website under this div, and you can create other div in one div. So that's how this div element and is popularly used in creating of websites, and it makes it more easier and more simpler to use. Now, moving on to the next, we have what we call the select. Well, it's not mostly used, but if you actually use want to build an option, you can make an option, you can actually use it. It's called the select. Now, using the element name, call it, tap on this, and you see you have a name, your ID. Now, ID is also like a class. is used to differentiate. It's used to differentiate between either a div or another element. It's used to differentiate between elements. That is, one element cannot have same class name as another element or same ID as another element. But we will understand that as we continue using with our project. So we can actually come here, tap on the select, come down. We'll be using that name and ID, and we'll create an option. Tap on the option, tap on it. Then you have something like your value. Now with this value, you can call here. You can put anything you want to put, but I'll put here one, and I'll be putting an option for breakfast. So looking here, I have an select element, and within the select element, I have my option with the values and their content. So coming to check them out, they look like in our preview. If you note, my value is actually showing 1211. When creating it, your value must be actually different, not the same. So I'm just doing that because showing you how it works. So coming to our preview, we'll be having something like this. Now we'll be having something like this. So that's another one we'll be using, something like this, like this. So lastly, I'll be looking at the nav bar. Now for you to use the nav bar, just put on nav and you see the snippet, tap on it. Okay, this one is one of class to actually differentiate. It's also a selector. Now in this nav bar, we can actually have a list of elements. It's used basically for making a navigation menu. For instance, you can have a navigation of different menu of about us, login, and the rest of all. It's used in many websites. Now I'm creating a list of nav bar navigation menu I want. So after creating the list in between our navigation selector, now we're going to check out it look like in our preview. Now this is how it's going to look like in our preview. Now most of you will be wondering, why is the logout red? Is it always red? Well, it's not always red. I actually placed the style color red. So that's it. So I would love to see you in our next video. Like, subscribe, share. Thank you for your time.